And joining me to make sense of some of these issues and calls is a public affairs analyst, Adeni Kunu. Adeni, good morning. Good to see you.
Thank you very much for
Great.
Thank you.
Right now, the issue of call for decentralization or devolution of power or restructuring or whatever the name it goes by is part of what the Professor Wole Soyinka was re-echoing in the interview that he granted sometime recently. And that call is a call that many Nigerians have also been making.
Yeah.
Now, but the question is, when it gets to the level where the question is asked, what does restructuring or devolution of power or decentralization, what does it mean to all Nigerians? It seems we are not all on the same page what that means to all of us, for us to be able to take up and say, let us, do something about it. What do you make of this?
Well, I'd like us to understand first that whatever happens within the context of governance must begin its analysis from there. So I'd like to go to 2017. That's during the first term of this administration that there were calls that part of what was on the manifesto of the country's leadership was that restructuring has to take place. So what happens? The party heeded the call, and we had the El Rufai committee that met for about 6 weeks or thereabouts. And on the 25th of January 2018, there was a report officially brought about to address the issue of restructuring. Part of what was in that document that many people perhaps may not remember is that the first thing has to be with the fact that powers should be devolved more to the states, which means that when we're talking about restructuring, we'll be looking at federalism, we'll be looking at fiscal federalism as well, and of course we'll be looking at maybe devolution of power. So federalism as a concept itself deals with the fact that although we have a central government, power is not vested in the central government, power is shared such that the center doesn't get too powerful. That's a fact that many persons understand. Going back to that report, don't forget I said El Rufai led the committee that looked at that. Part of what was said was that they should allow states to start controlling prisons and have state police. That's part of the report, that's second. The third one that they said was that the state government should still be legislating for the local government such that they even create more councils. And I think that the position of the president on that is not quite the same, because we know that this administration has accounted for, freeing the localities more from the gag of the state government. That's done by this administration, even if we know that it is not full autonomy. So I need to say here that in summary, restructuring is, we are several states in a geographical space. We have diverse leanings, religion, ethnicity, academic orientation. Could we be allowed to fulfill our corporate destinies across the state borders? Of course, we belong in the Nigerian concept, but let us grow in such a way that our ideals are not conflicted. But let me also tell those who really are at the forefront of agitation that there is not a federal country, as it were, that got it so smooth. The taste of being the one who controls power at the center makes you so powerful yet uncomfortable when they mention this. So the discomfort of those who are not really willing to yield grounds is understandable. But one of the things that those democracies did that didn't allow them get so bloodied is that they kept engaging such that they don't just lose it all in one day. We still know that even in referenced democracies and federal countries, the central government still has its powers, even if we know that it has limitations. So I need to say that one of the areas we've not done it right, especially the leadership of now, because we have to place it in context. We can't be talking about 2002 when we're in 2021. So one of the things that this government must do is to be humble a little bit and listen very carefully. Don't forget that one of the sterling statements of Martin Luther King is that the universe tilts in the direction of justice. I've paraphrased it. It means no matter what we do, the phenomena that actually encapsulate us has a way of balancing itself.
Exactly.
And no matter what you do,
nature balances itself.
Nature balances it. So I need to say this very clearly. Restructuring is a fact that we must have a conversation about. It's a healthy discussion. But I must tell many agitators, it's not a comfortable discussion because you're going to give part of your power to those who perhaps didn't have it. It therefore means that areas where you used to say no to, you cannot even say a word there. So it's a very uncomfortable conversation. But it is needful for us to have it, bearing in mind that a democracy, as defined, doesn't vest power only if the person who leads, but the people essentially the ones who control. So it becomes a misnomer when restructuring gets to the point where people get killed in a country where you're supposed to protect them. And do not forget, we're not talking about just the Southeast. We're talking about different parts of this country, even where the president himself comes from.
All right. We've had this call for restructuring where regions have their, or determine whatever they do, their destinies, their peculiarities, their specialty, their uniqueness, whatever it is. We've had it before in the First Republic, where the northern region was involved in agriculture. Beautiful things. That was when we had the granite pyramid and stuff. We had the cocoa in the southwest, and then the palm in the southeast. Exactly, and then the rubber, and so on. So, but when we make reference to that now, and we say we've had it before, so let's come back to just reorganize. What do you think is making anyone uncomfortable? Well, when we talk about the issue of allow people to express, or regions or states or whatever it is, for people to express their uniqueness and variety based on what they have.
There's a level of comfort that untruth guarantees, but it doesn't last the cycle that you think it would last. Let me talk about the previous administration before the APC came on board. They said they would be there for 60 years. The record there tells so. It's their record. But they spent 16. So that simply means they didn't have opportunity to make use of 44. This administration, I've heard something similar, but in another syntax, where the president talks about taking people out of poverty by 2030, 100 million, the rest. The reality is we have to look at the tenure that you're given to work. So when you round off your tenure, what you do within the tenure, as a matter of fact, is what matters. Of course, we know that government is a continuum and policies are built. So not to go away from your question, I think people in our part of the world are not being sincere when it comes to the true demands on their style or concept of leadership. And because they are not very sincere, and they think that my father, for instance, is older than the president. So there are certain things my father will say he shouldn't talk about, when you know that kind of thing. So it means that the president leads those that are older than him, more educated than him, those that are not as educated as himself. So he's dealing with a bazooka, as it were, of postures, varieties of leanings, countenances, and he must stay conscious of the divergences, as I've talked about, and get deliberately humble, because humility itself is what at times you have to force yourself to do, and understand something. Let's say this, history is there for the records. We know that in certain countries, there are certain people who feel this is who we are, and we can't take this. But you must understand the peculiarity of this country. Let's talk about India briefly. I don't want to refer to the West. Let me go to India, a country that has over 1 billion population. There are about 800 political parties in India. In India, we have the different tiers of government. There's something they call the panchayats and the municipalities, created in India to address the issues of those who are far below the ladder, as it were. And I must also say, as much as I dislike it, the caste system in India itself has its own disadvantages.
Seriously.
So when you look at the approach India has given to such as we're having now, it is to ensure that, for instance, Narendra Modi doesn't be the one to call the shots of some people that are in Punjab, some areas in Delhi or Maharashtra, because they know that there are certain things that you can't take. Let's talk about India. India has in excess of or close to 200 million Muslims. The major religion of India is Hindu, as it were. And we know that for many years on end, the Muslims in India that actually got geographically held in would perhaps have gone to Pakistan or Bangladesh. They are there. It means that the regions of India would have different cultural leanings, would have different ideologies because they're Muslims. And for those who do not know, the battle between those who are Hindi or Hindu and the Muslim continues, but India has found a way to manage it. So coming to Nigeria now, for instance, the leadership must consistently take into account the dissimilarities in terms of our religious posture that appears to be one thing that is at the core of this discussion. Don't forget the killings at some point have been associated with these people are the reasons they're killing. And we have said, okay, let's not take it that way. And it seems as if the conversation continues to come into our face of the incidences that points to the fact that that is one. So let us understand again that post-civil war of this country, many untruths preceded supposed reconciliation. And you cannot have untruth and reconciliation. You must have truth and reconciliation.
Exactly.
Although we could say the Southeast is the loudest of those that are agitating at the moment, but let's also understand that there are other minority ethnics that got affected by the war, some of them in even greater weight than we have. But of course, they are also there in pains. So I think that what is helpful at the moment is for the government to even, okay, for instance, let's look at inflation in the last month across all levels increased. The naira to the dollar is indicative of the unfavorable state of our economy because that is a way to measure amongst many others. So if, for instance, the policies and strategies are not favorable to moving Nigeria in the right direction, it is important we have a conversation, Mike. And the conversation is, all right, we know the strengths of this region. Can we now begin to allow this up? And don't forget, part of what the 2018 results of the El-Rufai report brought out part of the things that are cause of this agitation. So you went ahead, you first of all had it on your manifesto, you went ahead to sit, recognizing that there's a need to have a conversation. The report now came out officially. We discussed the report. Okay, let's leave the 2014 confab. Can we begin from the report put together by the party in power such that the report they have brought out can now begin to get implemented? Because that is the way to begin. No matter the agitations, government actually has its own structures and systems. And because it's a democracy, or as a friend said, pseudo-democracy, can we now begin to allow the different steps to work? But at the same time, let's look at this. The constitution of the country has been a matter of debate in the recent times. And I must tell you very clearly, Ike, that the Constitution itself is not helpful in this conversation. When we talk about restructuring, you expect it to be initiated at the level of the legislature. You expect that, okay, there's a referendum created to allow for that. But the reality is, the Abdulsalami Abubakar administration that midwifed us into this democracy, they told us that Justice Nikki Toby was the one who said, we know who calls the shot in every military regime going into a democracy. So the Constitution, out of all of the brilliant lawyers in this country, nobody deemed it fit to ensure that there's a referendum in it. In this same Constitution, in a country of over 200 million, only a religion is mentioned over 100 million times. Over 100 times in that Constitution. Don't forget, we have Christians, we have traditional religious worshippers. And don't be deceived, even in the northern part of this country, there are people who are not even Christians or Muslim, they are deeply into traditional religion. The same Constitution doesn't recognize them. The other day we were talking about Ovioma Agege saying that we cannot initiate anything that will allow us to have a new Constitution. That is a statement that is very false, because a renowned lawyer whose comments I read, because some things I don't take of my opinion, I read lettered men, said an act of parliament can resolve the issue. So I need to say this. So there are lots of things that have become very jumbled that we have to identify them one for it. First, this Constitution that they are reviewing, let's tell ourselves the truth. It was a military edict given to us for people who understand the dynamics of it to make it work. But of course, they did the bidding of the powers that be. We won't blame them, because we know the peculiarities of military leadership.
But if the document that is the 1999 Constitution has been given, the point there is, when we hear Nigerians, some very eminent Nigerians are saying, this Constitution, jettison, throw it away and let's have a new one. What difference is it going to make?
It's going to make a whole lot of difference. In the first place, opinion leaders and those who shape thoughts, who have seen the different republics of this country, who understood what it was, what used to be, and who understand what it is now, and of course who are knowledgeable about the impact of each of those documents. Do not forget that these people know about the impact of every of the documents that guide us, are saying that of all the documents we have, there's one that worked for us as a country, not for a region, for us as a country and for the respective regions. Can we, for the purposes of hindsight, get back? The reference being made is, of course, to the 1963 Constitution. I know that there are lots of things that will still be worked on to reflect the contemporary time that we find ourselves, but people are saying go back to it. Okay, some other persons are saying, well, that may not address it. Can we have a new one? All right, what are the processes to be put in place? So I'm saying here that that is where humility comes in leadership. And I need to say this. If you look at this country, the way it's configured, even if we're talking about what region has comparative advantage in terms of even sustaining the country, is the North. Agriculture in the North is without doubt more than in any part of the world, because the North, without a doubt, has even more land space. It therefore means that the North as a region itself has a lot of comparative advantages that it can reason through and leverage. So when we talk about the Constitution, if opinion leaders, the people that lead people in the region, are saying this Constitution is unacceptable, but the people that are supposed to be servants in government who were given mandates are saying we will amend it, who are they listening to in the first place? Because people are saying no, no, no. So I think the first thing that should have been done appropriately is to take a chill pill.
All right. How challenging would the, now, almost everyone has made reference to the 1963 Constitution as being one of the best constitutions that reflects,
because it strengthens the respective regions more.
The point is, if you look at the pre-independence Constitution, the development from, you know, all the Macphersons and Littletons and all of that, as the Richardson Constitution and all of that, because they understood Nigeria. They knew how peculiar and how diverse and how different we all were.
Nigeria,
so they started shaping Nigeria into a federal system.
Hold on, please. Okay. I need us to understand that the highest fraud we had before independence were the British people.
Why do you say so?
Yes, I'll say that because for every of the constitution they gave to us, it is to enhance not only the cultural divergences, but to enhance the economic interests. The facts are there. We don't have enough time. I would have actually done non-exhaustive analysis of that. I'm telling you now that all they did, bringing us into independence, was to ensure that there was a convenience of managing them. Let me give you a picture. Sudan and Egypt happen to be a country. And it was in 1821, the last governor general of that region was Sir Robert Howe. And one of the things they did, leaving Egypt and Sudan, was that they felt Sudan, especially in terms of the Muslim part and all that, okay, let's have them divided, because they felt Egypt as a country, as it were, was too big for them to administer. So there was a division. And even the current South Sudan then, they divided it in such a way that it eventually emerged. What I'm saying is they did that for the economic interest. Nigeria is not different from the economic interest of the people. And let's understand history here. The people who crossed the Atlantic here came because of economic advantages. They needed to leverage what we had. Let us not get it wrong. That is a perfect picture of colonialism. Get their wealth, use their people to build a country, of course, get more of it down. And they are documented. So what I'm saying in essence is, part of what we must look at as a people, okay, they gave us this country. They did it to the best of their knowledge. Can we now look at where they didn't do it right and correct it?
All right, so we can correct it.
Yeah,
all right, so now it is our responsibility to build our own country.
Most definitely.
The way we want, based on our own aspiration and our destiny.
We should do that.
All right, we have to leave it here now. Thank you so much, Adeni.
Thank you for the opportunity to be on the
for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Right.